Good morning, Pat called.
Hello again everybody. Welcome back to another video, which is of course another review. And since my Portland Bill review I did went so well, I've decided to do a review on one of my favourite animation companies, that being Woodland Animations. Woodland Animations was a British stop-motion animation company founded in the 1970s by Ivor Wood. The company was best known for animating children's shows such as Postman Pat, Bertha, Gran and Charlie Shock, which all aired on children's BBC. Bertha, Charlie Shock and Gran all lasted 13 episodes and one series each, whereas Postman Pat had 2 series with lots of episodes. Pat went on to be the more popular one, with Gran, Bertha and Charlie Shock being underrated. They still get talked about a lot on Twitter and everything, and there's still fans who love the show, which is great. Postman Pat just lasted to be the longer one though. The company was later bought in 2001 by Right Entertainment. So without further ado, let's begin. Gran, originally narrated by Patricia Hayes, followed the daily life adventures of Gran, a grandma who is very talented and loves to be a bit crazy at times, following along and enjoys spending time with her grandson Jim, who sometimes finds her to be a bit cuckoo. Some of the episodes features her doing funny and silly things like hang gliding, knitting a big long scarf, motorbike racing, and a bunch of other wacky nonsense as well. The show was created by Michael and Joanne Cole, who also created Bod and Fingerbob. I would say this is one of the least popular shows out of the 4. One of my favourite episodes from the series is Grand Gliding, where Jim visits her and persuades her to go kite flying with him, which ends up with her finding a hand glider and using that throughout the episode. Another one of my favourites is Gran's Bike, where Gran asks Jim to help her take the shopping back to her house while she cycles on his bike, which results in her following and messing around with it until she fixes up a motorbike in her shed and takes it out for a race. There isn't really lots to talk about the show. Like I said, it isn't as big as or well known as the other 3, where they are slowly known, but I would say this one is really charming and a good series to watch. Has great music too. Charlie Shock follows the adventures of a clown called Charlie who gets stranded on an island called Merrytwit, and he meets a cast of interesting characters. The show was created by Ivor Wood himself, and the opening theme song was sung by Ken Barry. The series focuses around the jungle of Merrytwit and what all the characters get up to, all the scenarios, situations, and when ideas come into their heads, they do something. The first episode had Charlie building himself a house, and a bunch of other good stuff. Many of the characters include Captain Millard, who's in charge of the Buttercup ship, and is the boss of the island. Louis T. Duck, a very tempered and wise duck on the island. Arnold the Elephant, who's quite clumsy and a bit silly as well. Trader Jones, who, trades stuff. And a bunch of other interesting characters. Overall, I think Charlie Shock is an amazing series, has a lot of funny moments in it, just like any other Ivor Wood show, and a bunch of funny scenes and all that, and good stories too. Moving on to the next show. Bertha was created by Eric Charles and Stephen Flores, which featured the voices of Shelley L. Walker and Roy Kinner. He was best known for playing Veruca Salt's father in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The series revolves around Spotswood and Co., a factory known for manufacturing toys. Each day the workers get into a situation or problem, either due to the manufacturing or just an issue in general, and the reliable machine, Bertha, always saves the day. Bertha manufactures many things such as garden gnomes, musical windmill boxes, jack-in-the-boxes, humming tops, cuckoo clocks, jigsaw puzzles, building blocks, jumping kangaroos and Etic. Many of the characters include Ted, who mainly works with Bertha, Roy, a young lad who works around the factory, Nell and Flo, 2 ladies who pack and stack many of the toys, Paget, who uses the forklift to move boxes and crates and all that, Miss Tub, who's the tea lady, Mr. Sprott, the chief designer for all the toys, Tracy, who's Mr. Sprott's assistant, usually helping manufacture and help with designing all the toys. Mr. Wilmick, who runs the factory and makes sure everything's going great and well. Miss McClatchy, who's the secretary to Mr. Wilmick. And Mr. Duncan, who's usually antagonist in a lot of the stories. He's the foreman who usually complains if the workers are not working or on a break. And he doesn't like Bertha for some reason. In the episode More Speed, Less Work, Mr. Duncan tries to shut Bertha down, and the team have a protest to stop him doing that.
Bertha's best! Bertha's best! Bertha!
There's also Tom, who I forgot to mention, who Tracy made. He helps around the factory and he's Bertha's son. And also the theme song.
Bertha, lovely Bertha, you are a lovely machine, and anyone who works with you will know just what I mean. Whoa, Bertha, lovely Bertha, sometimes I think you're a dream, but when we work out what you have to do, you can always turn the goods out, always turn the goods out, we can depend upon you. Clicking in the day, flashing in the night, your computer is shining brightly. Some people say you have a mind of your own, and I think that's very likely. Bertha, lovely Bertha, sometimes I think you're a dream, but when we work out what you have to do, you can always turn the goods out, always turn the goods out, we can depend upon you.
And with that, we have covered 3 Woodland Animation programs, and now we're on to our last and final one. Postman Pat was written and created by John Cliff, who also worked on Rosie and Jim. The series revolves around Pat, a postman who lives in Greendale with his black and white cat Jess, where they both go around the village delivering mail, letters and parcels, and helping their friends along the way. Which ran from 1981 to 1987. Some of the characters include Mrs. Goggins, the village post lady, Granny Dryden, when after hearing Pat loses his watch, he orders him a new one, Ted Glenn, the village's handyman, the Reverend Timms, who runs the village church, Dorothy and Alf Thompson, who run the farm, Miss Hubbard, who usually drinks rhubarb wine and usually rides her bicycle around the village, and many more characters. There's so many characters that it would take quite a while to name them all. But yeah, you'll know most of them anyways if you've ever watched a lot of the show. Following the first series, which got so good, Woodland Animation would make a second series. I don't know if it's like new models, but it was upgraded with a lot of new style and other things. It also received 4 specials, and it's pretty cool. I wouldn't say Series 2 is my favourite one. I'm always going to be a big fan of the first series, but Series 2 is decent. The first and second series was narrated by Ken Barry, who also done all the voices up until the second series, where Ken did all the male voices and Carol Boyd did all the female voices. And the music in the show is so amazing. Like, Brian Daley has done his best at composing it, and Ken Barry's singing voice is just incredible.
Here's the little story of a very special cat, who's the friend and good companion of a certain Postman Pat. Travelling through the country with his good friend by his side, Pat knows his cat just likes to be there, for he always likes to ride through the beautiful valley and its lovely countryside, as he sits up by the window and the views go gliding by. Jess is his cat. Jess is his cat. Jess is his cat, and it's always been like that, and it's always been like that, always been like that, always been like that.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's been my review of Woodland Animation programs. Postman Pat, Bertha, Gran and Charlie Shock are all amazing series, and I recommend you go watch them. They have good songs, good animation, good episode writing, funny moments and catchy tunes, and they're really good to watch. But anyway guys, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.